Hi and welcome to Sonic Academy. I'm Alex from the Squatters, and in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how we make our Squatters builds in our tracks. Now a lot of people use a lot of effects, and you know we do use a lot of effects that you get in sample packs, but I tend to find that making your own builds using various leads and white noises and snare samples, you can get a better effect, and it's original, you know, it doesn't sound like everyone else's tracks. So anyway, first of all what I do is do a piece of MIDI of whatever key my track's in, or whatever note I want it on. I do a note, this one goes over, you know, quite a lot, I think 16 bars, or whatever. And what I do is I draw a pitch bend on it, and if you don't know how to do that, once you've got your note in there, if you click this little box down here, it brings up all sorts of options, and if you go to pitch bend, and then you can just draw whatever you want, you know, on your notes there. Okay, so first up then, I've used the Anasynth, which is Sonic Academy synthesizer, which, to be fair, is really, really good. It's really easy to program, and the sounds that you get out of it are awesome. So it's something that I've started to use a lot more and more, and it's good for making your own presets as well. So I've made this one. I used a trance sound that was already in the presets and messed around with it a bit, and to make it how I liked it. So what I'll do is I'll play the sound. And also what I've done is the bender range on the synth, whatever sound you're using, you need to make that quite high. And I've put this on 24, which is the highest it'll go. So if I just solo it, you can hear what I've got here. And you can hear that rises up and everything. I've just got a little bit of a plinky delay on there, and some distortion on there too. And then all I've done is EQ'd that, and I've added some reverb to it. Again, I've used the Lexicon plate reverb, which is my favourite reverb, and I use it on everything. But you can use whichever one you want. And all I've done is put that onto a bus just on there, and it brings up the next channel so you can put your effects on. So what we can do now is we can treat all of these effects using the same reverb to make them sound like the group together. So with the reverb on there, it sounds huge. I'll play that for you. There you can hear with the reverb it all trails off and sounds all nice and big. And then the next thing I've added underneath there is it's just a sine wave as a sub, and that builds up sort of like the pressure underneath. So if you've got everything quite high building up in your track, that bit of sub bass underneath just adds a bit of tension and a bit of pressure under everything. And all I've done to make this is if you open the AXS24 sampler up, it just has its own sort of preset sine wave sound, and if you play it low enough, it's an absolutely brilliant sub, and I use that as the sub in a lot of my tracks actually. And all we do on that is just bring the attack up a little bit in the release, just so it doesn't click when you're playing it. And then copy the MIDI from the top, and then we just drop it a few octaves. Either you can do it this way, moving it up and down, or if you just go into the top corner, you can transpose the whole thing down. And again, that's got the pitch bend on it, so we need to make sure that the pitch bend on here is as high as it'll go to match what we've got going on there. And I'll play that for you. As you can hear, it's rising behind everything else. So that, don't really do quite a lot, don't really do much to that. Maybe a little bit of EQ just to shelve off a little bit at the bottom of the top once it's into my track. And that's about it. I just make sure it's going through my bass bus, and it's sent to the right part. Now underneath that is a white noise. I always make my own white noise, because if you use the ESP in Logic, all you do is knock everything off and turn the noise on full, whack your filter up, a little bit of resonance, and obviously shape it however you want with your envelope on there. And then if you just press the note, oops, I've got my effects on there, you just get a plain white noise. So you can add filters to this and automation and everything. And what I've done on here is I've just put Apple's low pass filter on there, as you can see. And if I solo this, you can hear I've done a gradual filtering on the automation, and you can see just there I've just scooped it up. And if you're wondering how you get that scoop, if you just press escape on your keyboard, it brings your tool palette up, and you've got an automation curve tool, and once you've drawn your automation, you can bend the lines on it like that. Okay, so we'll have a listen to that. So you get the picture. But you can, the beauty of these is you can bounce your white noises down and save them into your own sample pack, and they're not in any key of white noises, so you can just throw them in anything, and it's nice and easy because they're already done and you're not having to automate them every time they're in there. The next thing I've done is I've put Tremolo on there as well. Now what Tremolo does is it's like an auto pan feature, and it throws things from left to right, and all I've done is there's a thing called smoothing which makes it sound real smooth when it goes between the speakers. If you turn that right down, it chops between them left and right. And all I've done is automated the rate so that it gets faster and faster. As you can see, I've just drawn that there. And I'll play that for you. And that just builds and gets faster and faster towards the end. So we can put some reverb on that as well. So if we put the bus on, send that to my large reverb, and just blend a bit in there. There we go. That should be enough. And then the only other thing really we put in our builds, main thing, is a couple of snares. Like what I've done here is I've just got a snare that I really like. Again, just a sample, little bit of reverb on there. I would EQ these as I'm going along, obviously, so everything fits into the track. The other thing I've done is I've made like a little fill, and all I've done is get a snare sample and copy them so they're really close together. As you can see, there's part of it. So all I've done is, if you just get your snare sample and you layer them really close together and you copy them together like that, and then you can merge it, and you get this little like flam noise like that. And another thing you can do is once you've merged your 4 little samples, if you go into your sample editor and just go to factory or function, sorry, you can go to fade in, and you just get a nice little effect as it like fades in, and then it gives you this. So then the other thing we've got there is just a clap just underneath it to layer with the snare. And what I've done there is I've put my sample delay on it, the little trick I was showing you in the percussion and drums tutorial. And then all we have to do is just delay that, make sure that's delayed as well, so it stays in time. Put that down to around 30, which is where that sits. And then if we listen to them together, you get like a flamming noise between them, and it just adds more dimension to it. And the only thing I've done for that is I would EQ it depending on what else is going on in my track. I've just added a little bit of reverb on there as well. So when you build them all up, you can sort of do what you want, build up, drop straight into a track. Or one thing that we like to do is just to use a little vocal sample or snippet at the end. And I've just got this little sample here. So if we listen to it all together, and then imagine this is going to drop into, you know, some like heavy drop or whatever. This is how the build would sound up before it. So that's pretty much it. That's the sort of like the basic rules and the main elements that I have in our build-ups. Obviously it differs whatever tune we're doing. Like we sometimes have vocals chopped up in there as well. But they're the main elements that I've made myself. Get yourself into this Anasynth and have a play with it, because it's really cool. It's dead easy to use, and you can make some absolutely wicked sounds on it. And the rest of it, the majority of it's all just inside Logic, so it's pretty easy peasy.